Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Connor, and you are listening to another episode of Film Talks. This week, I'm very excited. We have some stuff I've been sitting on for a while, and it's about time that I just unleash these topics onto the world. So first off, we have the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit. It's fairly old news, but we can talk about, hey, what is this COVID quarantine? Nobody going to the movie theater. How is it going to affect the movie industry? And then second up, I want to talk about, are there movies you can't spoil, right? We have the spoiler culture where you're afraid to go on Instagram and all that, and, there's spoilers everywhere. Are there movies, though, where you don't really have to be afraid of spoilers? Like if somebody says, oh, this happens in the movie, is it really going to ruin the movie for you? Are you going to not watch it because of the spoilers? And then for what I'm watching, we're going to talk about Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. Let's get into it. All right. So what did I say we were going to talk about first? Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit it's an interesting debacle. Scarlett Johansson, right, was told that the Black Widow movie, some of the profit would go to her. In this instance, it's kind of like Scarlett Johansson is rooting for the movie to do good in sales because then she's bringing in some of those sales. When the deal was made, they didn't think that, hey, movie theaters weren't going to be a big thing during this time when the movie comes out. So that was the deal because it was just commonplace at this point. And Scarlett Johansson was going to be raking in the money. And then this movie came out, and Disney was like, we're going to put it on Disney Plus for a fee, but it's going to be over streaming. It's going to be a streaming release. And that is obviously going to affect box office sales. So they did a kind of a joint operation, very similar to what HBO Max is doing. All of the Warner Brothers movies that they are releasing this year are releasing in theaters, and HBO Max same day. Disney Plus, what they're doing is they're releasing some of their movies in theaters and also Disney Plus, but Disney Plus, there's a fee. So instead of it being free on Disney Plus, it's like, hey, you guys spend $30 or something like that. Which, in the grand scheme, if you're bringing a whole family to the theater, is still cheaper than the theater, but it is not free. So that has its detractors. But what a lot of analysts have been saying is, hey, Disney decided they were going to release it on streaming and in theaters, and so obviously that's going to affect the box office sales for that movie. Scarlett Johansson agrees, and she's essentially suing Disney because she feels like she's owed money. Right now, we don't really have a good metric on how good a movie is in terms of sales besides box office. Box office is easy because it's just kind of like a public knowledge kind of thing, but streaming numbers are something that some streaming giants kind of keep close to the vest. Sometimes they release kind of generic numbers. It's very hard in most cases to tell how successful a movie really was. If you put it on streaming, you're not just getting the movie for streaming, you're basically paying a monthly fee for a bunch of movies, and then in Disney Plus's case, you're also paying a separate fee for the movie. So in theory, if I buy the Black Widow movie at $30, yes, Disney gets $30, but they also get my subscription. And that would mean that you're paying, like $7, $8, $9 for the Disney Plus subscription for that month. And then you're getting $30 for Black Widow. And then you add to it that the interesting metric of streaming is they're trying to keep you there. So now they've kind of got you into the door with Black Widow. Now you're exploring their catalog. Oh, I like this movie. I like that show. I can't wait for this one to come out. And now you're paying every month for the streaming. But maybe you wouldn't have if Black Widow hadn't gotten you in the door. Big studios are using these big budget movies to get you in, and then they're keeping you. So in theory, does that make them more money? Because also, you got to think about, if it's on streaming, they're splitting the cost less. Because if they're putting it in theaters, some of the cost is going to other people and all that. But if they're keeping it all in-house, then it's even easier because Disney just has its own pipeline for its movies, and it doesn't have to outsource at this point. Now the box office sales have been dwindling So, what is the contract language going to be looking like in the future for these stars? Are they going to still be asking for money on the back end? Um, is it going to be more front end stuff? I think Disney handled the situation kind of poorly. I think most of the studios handled it kind of poorly. They could just tell the stars, hey, we're going to be putting it on streaming ahead of time so they can prepare and work with them. And then you kind of get a good relationship. Again, I love drawing connections to sports. If you're a GM and you're making promises to people and then you're breaking them and trading people, then word gets around. And then the whole league is like, okay, so this guy is a little dirty. I'm not going to trust what he says. And so then that's going to impact the relationships you have in the industry, and it's going to impact what stars want to join you. So then, if you think about it from a movie perspective, if Disney, Warner Brothers just screws up all these relationships with these big name directors and actors, then that's going to impact the level of movie that you're able to output. And this doesn't even like begin to touch the surface of a interesting problem, which is that you're getting all these movies now that were made for box office sales, like the James Bond movie. And it won't survive on streaming, first off, because MGM, I think they're on Amazon, but like it's just, they're not going to recoup those losses because at this point it's been delayed so much that I think they said they need to make over $1 billion to just break even. Not even like to make money. To break even, they need $1 billion. And right now that's looking very unlikely, looking at all these other box office numbers. So not only is this going to affect contract language, in my opinion, in the future, this is also going to affect the making of movies. How much money are we putting into these movies? I think it's very possible if the box office numbers don't come back, that the movie industry, in order to survive, is going to have to roll back a little bit and say, hey, we used to make movies that were this expensive, but it's just the money's not there anymore. The industry has changed, so we need to adapt. And so there's going to be more stuff that's streaming level than necessarily giant expensive movie level. Which isn't, I don't think we will notice it that much, to be quite honest. Like if you look at the new Marvel TV shows, they look just like the movies. So like the quality level going from TV show to movie to miniseries and all that to streaming to movie theater, it's not really that noticeable in my opinion. I'm not a big like movie prude, but in my opinion, I don't think we're going to notice it that much. I just think these older movies that were made before the pandemic, I don't know if they're going to be able to make back those losses. They keep on delaying these movies. I just don't know how long they're going to delay them for, because nobody knows when the theaters are going to come back. Maybe nobody will go back to the theater. I don't know. But we will see, right? So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Is the movie industry going to recover? Are we going to see a change in the budget of movies? Are actors going to be forced to change the contract language in their contracts? And yeah, so let me know what you guys think down below. And what else we got? Movies you can spoil. Okay, this is a discussion I've had with a lot of people for a long time, because I think with the increase of movies that try to give you a surprise, I think Marvel specifically has been a big proponent of this change, where you have the end credit scene that kind of teases the future. And most of the time when you read about a Marvel movie before it's out, they're like, oh, the end credit scene is so amazing, it's gonna blow your mind. Like this Shang-Chi movie from Marvel that's coming out in the future, or is out now when you're watching this video. Everybody's saying, oh, this end credit scene, it's blowing everybody's mind. That's a spoiler. Even with Star Wars, a lot of times when you're seeing these popular materials, they try to throw little Easter eggs or fun, crazy things at the end. And it's kind of like part of the viewing experience is the surprise of not knowing how this is going to go. I could give you a couple Star Wars ones, honestly. So Rogue One. At the end of Rogue One, Darth Vader comes in and just obliterates everybody in this hallway scene that's like, should be like in the holy grails of movie theater experiences because it was just awesome. That was actually spoiled for one of my friends because it was on Instagram. Somebody recorded it on their phone. And like, that's something you can spoil. If a movie has the ability to be spoiled, then that means the story revolves around the incident that's being spoiled, if you know what I mean. So again, we go back to, we go to Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian at the end, Luke Skywalker comes in. The whole emotional draw of that scene is Luke Skywalker's arrival, and you going, "Oh, is that really him? I can't believe it's actually him." Like trying to figure out what's going on. If you already know that he's there from the start, or is going to show up from the start, then it changes the story a little bit. So now you're not really like asking who it is. You're not really in suspense, and it changes the mood that the filmmakers were trying to portray in the first place. And then from a story aspect, it kind of cheapens it because you know the ending, right? So if they try to throw you some misdirections, you're just going to ignore them because you already know what the right direction is. So that impacts the movie experience. However, I think this applies to a certain kind of movie, and I've talked to multiple people about this, and I don't think a lot of people agree with me. However, when I saw the movie yesterday, it was a movie about a guy who he's a musician. He knew all the Beatles songs, and he went to bed, woke up one day. Nobody knew who the Beatles were. The Beatles had been erased from history. The Beatles meaning the band. I hope that doesn't need to be said. Not like an insect beetle. The Beatles, the band. And so then he starts playing their music and passing it off as his own, and people think he's like the greatest musician ever. I don't think like that this was a movie that could be spoiled because on the one end, it was a very formulaic movie. You knew where it was going from the start, right? So it starts with, hey, I'm the only guy who knows who the Beatles are. Midway through, okay, I'm passing off the Beatles as my own, and everybody thinks I'm really cool, but I'm really not because I didn't actually come up with these songs. End of the movie. I tell everybody I didn't write the songs. The Beatles actually wrote the songs. Like that stuff, yes, they are spoilers. However, does it ruin the movie? No, because in my mind, you already knew where the movie was going in the first place. If you tell me that Boromir is going to die in Lord of the Rings, that is going to affect my experience before I see it. If you tell me Darth Vader is Luke's father, it changes the story. Obviously, that was the point of the move. And so then it retroactively affects prior films. But if I tell you in 10 Things I Hate About You, Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger end up together, that's not really a spoiler because like I feel like the formula of romance is at some point you're supposed to be in doubt if they're going to end up together, but then they get back together. And that formula is so prevalent that the misdirection before they get back together never usually works. So if it's not working in the movie when you're just watching it, then you can't really spoil it. You know what I mean? Like a spoiler is something that you wouldn't have caught if you were just watching it regular. That if somebody told you beforehand, you'd be like, oh, that ruins it a little bit. It taints the picture. But if you're watching it the first time through and your reaction to the story is the same as if you had the spoiler to begin with, then the spoiler is moot at that point because it's not really a spoiler. To finish my rant, are there movies you can spoil? Sure. But I think it's a particular type of film. And I think it also depends what is spoiled, right? So in most cases, the climax of the movie should not be spoiled. In most movies, right? Whether it's a regular drama, a romance, a horror, or anything. Horror movies are the worst offenders of cliche tropes and following a formula. Because when does the demon ever win? Please tell me if there's a movie where the demon wins in the end. But if there's ever like somebody who's being like taken over by a demon, somebody gets called in, demon gets pushed out, humanity wins, but like there's always like some sinisterness at the end where they're like, humanity doesn't always win because demons are out there. Ba 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 bum. Like same thing with Halloween, right? So like, um, who is that? Jason? No, Freddy. No, I just said it wrong both times. Not Jason, not Freddy. Michael Myers. So Michael Myers is going around. Let's say the new Halloween movie where Jamie Lee Curtis is a little old and Michael Myers is going around killing people. You know what's going to happen. If I tell you Michael Myers is going to kill a bunch of people, then he's going to try and kill Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis wins. Was that in doubt? Like were you thinking I'm going to watch this movie and I don't know what's going to happen. I have no feasible idea how this movie is going to go. Because then I can't help you, really. If you didn't have any idea where these movies are going, sure. Yeah, the spoiler counts, but I don't know. I feel like that's a very special case for special people. But let me know in the comments again what you guys think. Are there movies that you can't spoil? And what are those movies? What movies can you guys think of that you can't spoil? And then last up, we have what I'm watching, where I'm going to be talking about Alice in Wonderland. There's been a lot of Alice in Wonderlands. There's been a couple live-action Alice in Wonderlands. I'm going to talk about the Tim Burton one, the first one, not the second one that looks like it was made by Tim Burton, but it wasn't really. I think the second one was directed by someone else. First one was directed by Tim Burton, and then there was an older live-action one, and then there's the animated one. We're not talking about those. We're talking about the Tim Burton live-action one with Johnny Depp. And he was the big reason why I wanted to watch it, because I'm in this weird Johnny Depp mood where I just sort of like feel kind of sad because I'm realizing that there are these actors that were kind of basically adults when I was a kid, and now they're turning into old people. Like Robert De Niro, to me, was always old, so him getting like senile old at this point isn't really like eye-opening for me. Same thing with like Al Pacino, Meryl Streep. Like they've always been that level to my eyes. But people like Keanu Reeves, people like Johnny Depp, they've been fairly younger men. And so now seeing them get older, like turning into old men, is kind of like eye-opening. Like it doesn't make sense to me in most cases. Like I watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I watched the Tourist movie. I watched Alice in Wonderland, Willy Wonka, and Johnny Depp looked a certain way. But now with this marriage trial, and then just with age, and then I'm sure there's an alcohol and drug thing going on, he just doesn't look okay. Even if this lawsuit goes in his favor, right? And everybody's like, oh, come back to the movies. And he starts acting in these big movies again. I don't think his appearance is going to revert back. I think this is just what he looks like now, and it's just kind of sad. I mean, he's not ugly per se. It's just he doesn't look like the Johnny Depp that I know. And so I've been trying to bring that back and go back to those older movies where I can get that feeling of weird Johnny Depp back. So let's just get right into these questions that I have that help me rate the movie or show that I'm watching at the time. So, was the storyline bloated or rushed in Alice in Wonderland? This movie is so strange on so many levels. It's definitely helped by nostalgia, right? So I remember this movie, didn't really like it when it came out, but there's just a feeling attached to it. That's, I think, with most Tim Burton movies, where it's just weird. And so it's not very slow. I think it's fairly well paced, to be completely honest with you. It's just there's so much weirdness in it that it helps you kind of connect one point to the other. So it's never like a dull moment because Tim Burton just like throws something strange or Johnny Depp says some weird word. Probably the worst part of the movie is the Futterwhacking part at the end where Johnny Depp does this like weird CGI dance thing. That was definitely added just for the kids, I guess. But I was a kid when this movie came out, and I was like, this is weird. It's kind of like when you watch those kids movies, and they add in like a roller coaster part to the movie. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I hope this is like in your head, you're like, yeah, I hate that. When like there's always like this part in most kids movies where like the characters are like running or escaping from something, and then it turns into like a roller coaster, and they're like riding a boat through like rapids or something like that, and it doesn't add very much thrill to the story. It's just there so the kids can go, ooh, roller coaster, blah blah blah. So storyline, it's fine. Are the characters relatable? No. No. I mean, that's like the strangeness. But what I can appreciate and has stayed with me after watching this movie is what Johnny Depp and Tim Burton are able to do together that I think is so emblematic of their style is hidden darkness, or how they utilize darkness and light. I think most people, when they think about Tim Burton, they're like, okay, so he uses the black and white stripes, and Johnny Depp is a very flamboyant, kind of figure. When I watch a Tim Burton movie that has Johnny Depp, there's always this interesting balance of light and dark, but it doesn't look that way. Whenever you watch, I'm going to say this like 30 times. When you watch a Tim Burton movie, a lot of times it's overtly dark. It's super obvious how sad and depressing and dark the world is. Look at like Corpse Bride, Edward Scissorhands, even Alice in Wonderland, where things are just like the shaders have been put in a little bit too much, let's say. But then there's this hidden joy that's there as well. And I think this is why Tim Burton was really good at doing a movie like this. The Hatter is this super nutty, super happy character, and he adds that childish whimsy into the story, where most of the characters are very strange, but kind of dark and brooding. But he's not that. But the world is tainting him. So this super just innocent figure is being tainted by this dark world. And so he has these hot flashes where he just gets pissed for no reason, and his eyes go red and his face becomes flushed, and he changes in appearance and everything. And it takes you off guard, but I thought it's just a super cool way of doing it. Are the characters relatable? No. But I think there are aspects of this film that have tangible applications, in that the world itself is a fairly dark place that can be scary, but there are elements of light that can kind of feed into our lives. We just have to be open to them. My third question: is the CGI in this movie rough? Oh, heck yeah. I don't know what Tim Burton was thinking. It's kind of that same era as the Willy Wonka movie. The CGI was not ready to do what he wanted to do. He replaced a whole actor's body in CG just because he wanted the proportions to be a little bit longer, I guess. But it just looks so odd because his head is real, but his whole body is just kind of rubbery. And obviously, all the exteriors are CG, so it's just a bunch of green screen. It's kind of like the worst of the prequel movies in regards to that. It looks so outdated and wrong, but I can't keep my eyes away from it because the imagination behind the exteriors and the characters is kind of interesting to look at. It looks wrong and it looks fake, but it's interesting at least. And so I think that's a good caveat to have. And then my fourth question: do I like the characters or anything about the movie enough to rewatch it? I think the rewatchability for this movie is based purely on nostalgia. If I didn't have any memories associated with this movie based on my childhood, I probably would never watch this movie again. But because I was craving that Johnny Depp, that old Tim Burton movie, I went back to it. And there's also an Avril Lavigne song at the end, which is so, like, I feel like on par for that era. And I was like, of course Avril Lavigne's in this movie. Where did she go? She just disappeared. I think she was, like, married to the Nickelback lead singer. I don't know if she still is, but... So Alice in Wonderland, I I don't think I would recommend it. I think this is just a personal weird thing that I just decided to watch. I think a lot of people are off put by Tim Burton movies or Johnny Depp movies. They're just weird guys. But I can't neglect to say that what they can do together is provide a movie that is presentable to a wide range of audiences, is able to touch on the darkness of the world, but is also able to say, hey, there's not just darkness, there's also light. And yeah, so that's all I got for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to hear more from you guys. Put it in the comments in the YouTube video, like and subscribe. This YouTube experience is kind of fun for me. I'm exploring new things, trying new ideas. I'm kind of planning things out for the future, so it's very interesting. And those listening on the podcast, as usual, thank you for lending me your ears. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Film.TalksOfficial. You can also find me wherever you get your typical podcast. And if I'm not there, then check another one, and I'm probably there. Again, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great week. So long.